Hello and welcome back to a new educational Overwatch video, if you will, where we're going to be taking a look at everything you need to know before the launch of Overwatch 2. I've had the chance to sit down with the Overwatch team and game directors in many creator meetings and experience Overwatch 2 through both the alpha and beta. I felt it might be a good time to make this video since a lot of news has gone overlooked and there's so many new players who don't have the same advantage as the people who've been playing for 6+ years now. If you guys enjoy this commentary style video, please remember to leave a like and let me know in the comments since my ego kind of depends on it. So let's get right into it. First and foremost, Overwatch 2 is going to be free to play and follow a business model similar to most recent successful AAA titles like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and Valorant. This really only made sense because there's less risk for both the developers and players. It seemed that the previous account buying and loot box system that they were capitalizing off of wasn't exactly cutting it anymore, so they've announced the Battle Pass, ditching the Overwatch credits we've been hoarding for years and encouraging players to actively play the game. You can most likely buy tiers for Battle Pass progress or play an unhealthy amount of Overwatch to catch up. This can be pretty scary for new players who aren't addicted like us since Battle Pass rewards are exclusive to that time frame. And of course, I'll be sure to make Battle Pass reaction videos and keep everybody up to date. Some of the newer items in the Battle Pass will include gun charms, banners, taunts, and the new mythic skins. Mythic skins are meant to be the rarest skins and will only be available at the max Battle Pass tier. And it seems that the first mythic skin is going to be going to Genji, and he kind of looks like an Nvidia graphics card, which is pretty cool. And ultimately, the more money that Overwatch generates, the more content we'll have. Paywalls are not exactly consumer friendly, but it seems everyone will be sharing one single Battle Pass. The Battle Pass will have seasonal updates every 9 weeks and the ability to buy skins in store. I believe they're going to be committing to a schedule of consistent content for all of us to enjoy, but I'm not exactly sure how that'll impact other aspects of the game, like balancing, for example. Based on the Overwatch 2 Watchpoint pack they released before the second beta, each Battle Pass will cost approximately 1,000 virtual currency. I would imagine that they'll be around $10, which is common price point across games. There's been some recent news spreading across the community, for better or worse, and it's that new heroes are going to be unlockable only through the free Battle Pass track. This, of course, incentivizes free-to-play players to continue grinding the game, while also giving you the option to buy that progress. Ultimately, this is a very slippery slope, and I've heard so many different opinions on the matter. Personally, I find that as long as new heroes aren't launched directly into ranked, everyone's gonna have a chance to unlock them ahead of time. I also hope that the new heroes are unlockable at a reasonably low tier so everyone can reach it with ease. Most people are extremely worried that new meta-defining heroes like Brigitte are gonna be locked behind a play or paywall, and that might actually hurt the hero diversity that Overwatch has always prided itself on. Overwatch has always been known for fast-paced composition swaps, and this business model will likely limit that potential. On the other hand, I think it's fair to say most players decide against making appropriate hero switches in ranked, either because they one-trick or have a smaller hero pool that they're comfortable with. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about unlockable heroes as well, but the best we could do is wait and see what direction they take their monetization. Over the past month, the Overwatch team has made many important announcements about previous accounts and how to transfer all of your cosmetics. As it stands, everything you once had on one account will also be on that same account into Overwatch 2. Super simple. However, they just announced that you can officially merge your cosmetics from multiple accounts into one. And I quote, "Progress from linked console accounts will be stored on your Battle.net account, which will share in-game cosmetics and progress across the linked accounts. This is especially nice for console players who have scattered weekly event cosmetics or Overwatch League skins. Since Overwatch 1 servers are going to be offline indefinitely after October 4th, make sure to link your accounts to enable cross-progression. Loot boxes will not be in Overwatch 2, and the developers have made it very clear that after September 14th, all remaining unopened loot boxes will be automatically opened. With that being said, if you really care, open them yourselves sooner rather than later." The Overwatch team just announced a last chance event to use all of your credits that'll last from September 13th to October 3rd. It's unsure right now if in-game cosmetics will be on sale during this time, but it's best to buy what you can regardless. The two major concerns with this free-to-play model they're introducing is cheaters and Smurfs. Unfortunately, although we haven't heard any news regarding an updated anti-cheat, I can guarantee that they're paying close attention to the report system and creator feedback. There's no denying that Overwatch has struggled with hackers for a few years, but I can confidently say that certain cheats and resellers are on their radar. However, just like most of you watching this video, I'm also pretty skeptical of their efforts since we've heard just about nothing at this point. Let's wait and see before judging too quickly, but they've already spoken on their first line of defense against Smurfs or alternate accounts. Overwatch 2 will be introducing a new SMS system where in order to play on any Battle.net account, you need to have a linked phone number. They've stated that prepaid SIM cards won't be a loophole since they've already thought it through. This most likely means that they will periodically ping these numbers to see if they're actually still active or real, and if not, then they'll deny access. Regardless, I think this should limit some of the Smurfs in your respective rank. I would also like to believe that with the release of Overwatch 2, they'll be paying extra close attention to account boosters so they can accommodate newer and returning players. As an avid competitive player, I was really interested in what the the Overwatch team had to show us regarding their new and improved competitive 2.0. In recent years, each season has felt the exact same. No rewards and no actual incentive to continue playing. If you've hit a new peak or made improvements in later seasons, the number alone carries weight and often ends up becoming a burden. The community belittles anyone who makes progress after season 10. There is actually a reason behind that phenomenon besides nostalgia. The ongoing metas themselves have been boring, and DLC heroes were introduced only to further break the game with no solution. Every new meta seemingly became worse than the last. As players continue to improve, they continue to understand hero fundamentals. That's exactly why you saw many players quit because of goats and double shield. Rather than nerf or rework pre-existing heroes, they'd introduce new game-breaking heroes or buff unproblematic heroes. This only encouraged more toxicity in our community because your skill level would be directly tied to the hero that you played the most. With even less returning players, the top 500 leaderboard continued to tank, making early season even less important. Competitive points are pretty uninspiring, and you can only ever earn more golden guns. However, in Overwatch 2, the team has announced rank subdivisions, similar to how Apex Legends and Valorant operate. It'll make progress much more noticeable, so instead of having a huge 500 SR stretch between ranks, you can judge your daily or weekly performance on smaller ranges. It'll probably look like Bronze 3, Bronze 2, Bronze 1, and so on. With that being said, SR will no longer be visible. Your skill rating will be privately adjusted after each win and loss to decide your rank subdivision. What this will most likely mean is that SR is going to be more flexible based on actual performance as well. Also, I kind of hated playing 8 hours only to judge my entire day on losing 3 SR. The most controversial change that I've seen in this new competitive 2.0 is removing medals for the scoreboard. The developers have acknowledged that judging gameplay on medals was toxic and inaccurate, but decided to make your performance public to the entire lobby, enemy team included. With heroes being so vastly different and outputting different levels of damage, eliminations, or healing, I don't see how a scoreboard solves really anything. I would love to hear your thoughts on the scoreboard in the comment section below. One actual positive change that they've teased is the new after-match report system to track your personal progression. The statistics that actually matter on a map-to-map basis are going to be available whenever you need them. I would imagine this includes individual hero performance regardless of how long you played said hero in that game. Definitely use this feature if you're new or haven't played in a long time rather than strictly VOD reviewing, which can be very time-consuming. Now for the bad news. It seems in Overwatch 2.0, there will be no MMR reset. What this means is players who have been boosted or cheated or abused busted untouched heroes are going to likely remain at the same rank for longer. For example, how Doofus played in Overwatch 1 is completely different than Overwatch 2, where he's now a tank. More on hero reworks later, but the fact remains that SR inflation is an existing problem in Overwatch 1 ever since role queue was introduced. The reality is it'll be a lot faster for the best players to split from the worst post-MMR reset than without. My solution? Introduce an MMR reset in a preseason where players can decide their rank prior to season 1 officially starting. Pretty much a fresh start for everyone, all at the same time. Overwatch 2 is going to be welcoming 3 new heroes to the roster. The first hero, Sojourn, was deeply rooted in lore ever since 2014 and has been in development since 2015. This actually led to a fundamental problem. She was originally designed for 6v6, but as we know, Overwatch 2 is now based around 5v5. Yet, when you actually get to play her, it doesn't feel problematic at all. Sojourn is fast-paced and extremely mobile while still offering range and kill potential. In my opinion, Sojourn is the first hero in years that actually improves the meta since she has an extremely high skill ceiling. Her primary fire is fast projectiles that charge a railgun as you do damage to anything. That includes enemies, shields, and abilities like Baptiste Immortality Field. Her railgun has actually already went through a series of nerfs and buffs primarily targeting the projectile size, since many people argue it's too easy to hit targets. Her base railgun can one-shot headshot at high charge and it drops back to 0 after each usage, meaning that her kit often revolves around setting up for flashy railgun plays. Right now, the higher the charge, the wider the railgun projectile. Her main ability is an AoE disruptor shot that slows enemies and eats away at their health. Comboing this ability with a railgun often makes for a really easy kill and helps build ult charge quite quickly. Sojourn has a power slide shift ability that lets you quickly reposition and leap into the sky upon canceling it. There's already some slide cancel tech that lets you jump even higher for more verticality. Lastly, her ultimate overclock auto recharges her energy and allows the railgun to pierce through multiple enemies while active. This can actually be fairly difficult and tricky to use since there's very little room for error. Honestly, she's really fun to play and I highly recommend her for any DPS player or for anybody that wants to try DPS for the first time. In the second beta, they released the first tank for Overwatch 2, Junker Queen. She also just so happens to be the first hero designed around 5v5 and had both a cinematic and origin story to enjoy. The community loved her design, personality, and gameplay. She's aggressive, fast-paced, but there were some problems with her kit that the player base immediately noticed. She is the first bleed hero and also introduces more anti-heals, which was only available to Ana prior to Junker Queen. Junker Queen's primary fire, called Scattergun, doesn't do much damage alone. It's slow and short range, but it gains more value in combination with her throwable knife, Gracie. Now, Gracie can be thrown at enemies, and if it directs, you can pull them inward similar to a Roadhog hook. Closing the distance between you and the enemy maxes out your primary fire's potential damage. Furthermore, any damage done with her knife triggers her passive ability called Adrenaline Rush, where she heals herself over time as a result of wounding the enemy. When an enemy is wounded, they also lose health over time. She has a commanding shout ability that not only gives Junker Queen 200 HP, but also gives all nearby allies another 100 HP. Her shout also gives everyone within the AoE a 30% movement speed buff, which is extremely broken if you couldn't tell already. Junker Queen has an ability called Carnage, where she swings an axe and can hit and wound multiple targets in front of her, also triggering her passive self-heals. I think you're starting to see the pattern, and it doesn't stop there. She has an ultimate called Rampage that allows her to charge forward, wounding, dealing damage, and preventing heals on enemies in that area of effect. I honestly have no words. Junker Queen absolutely needs a nerf, and many pro Overwatch League players are referring to her current meta as Jotes, a newer, more obnoxious version of goats. She's very fun to play, but not exactly fun to play against since no one seems to die, especially Junker Queen. Lastly, we have the new and very mysterious Fox Girl hero. She's been teased ever since the Kanezaka deathmatch map, which was littered with Easter eggs. Even now, we've only had a teaser trailer that didn't really show much and an Easter egg at the end of the second beta. We can only speculate that she'll be a support, but at this time, we need to wait on more information. She also seems to be directly related to the Shimada brothers, Genji and Hanzo. I can promise you right now that when we do hear more, you'll absolutely be seeing more videos on her kit and gameplay on this channel, so make sure you subscribe. I hope you guys are looking forward to it as much as I am. For now, though, I would recommend avoiding any leaks on Reddit and Twitter, as it seems a lot have been disproven, and they spoil all the fun. Her name, Kiriko, is floating around, and there's even been a leaked, unpolished, and unfinished cinematic. I'd prefer waiting for the official announcements to roll out. For heroes beyond these releases, the roadmap suggests we'll have a new tank hero in December, and even more throughout 2023. Meaning no matter which role you prefer playing, there is content on the horizon for everyone. Overwatch 2 is releasing 6 new maps in Season 1. One escort map being Circuit Royale, 3 new hybrid maps called Midtown, Rio, and Gothenburg, and lastly, 2 brand new maps for the newest game mode Push that go by Queen Street and Coliseo. Push is a fairly complex mode at first, but once you understand the checkpoint and spawn system, it's smooth sailing. Basically, you push a robot back and forth similar to a tug of war, and whichever team makes the most distance or reaches the endpoint wins the game. As you push the robot further, you reach checkpoints and spawn closer to the progress that your team made, rather than across the entire map. Some general tips that I've learned over the months of testing Push: definitely try to regroup whenever possible rather than dying on points, since those spawn times can be really detrimental for the distance you need to make. Also, the maps are generally really long, so play heroes that can offer good range like Ana, Sojourn, Ashe, and Junker Queen. Most of the maps offer many flanks around the bot's path, so apply pressure on the other team's supports as much as possible without brawling the tank on point. The last tip I have is ult tracking on Push is more important than ever, since by overtime the bot is moving really fast to cover lots of distance, and the respawn times are even longer. Snowballing in overtime is really common, so make sure to have a win condition ult combo for those moments. On this channel, we've already posted a few Overwatch 2 videos playing some of the new hero reworks, but we'll discuss them even further here. Since the game is now shifted to 5v5, every tank got their fair share of buffs to account for the absence of tank synergy. Orisa in particular had some major changes to her kit, ultimately making her less stationary, which was really necessary considering how fast Overwatch 2 plays. Rather than using a shield, Orisa can now use a javelin that she can spin to negate any projectiles, push enemies, and increase her forward speed. This javelin can also be thrown at targets, stunning and knocking them back. She still has her fortify that now gives her 125 extra health and 40% damage reduction. Instead of Bongo, she now has an ultimate called Terra Surge that drags enemies into her area of effect while charging up her damage that you can release at any point. I'm still kind of shocked that they managed to make Orisa, the most boring tank, into a top contender for the most fun tank to play in Overwatch 2. Doomfist is another hero that received a huge rework. In fact, they swapped his role entirely. He is now a tank, specifically specializing in dive. They buffed his health from 250 to 450. They revamped his seismic slam to have even more range and verticality, similar to a Winston leap, and swapped his uppercut with an ability called Power Block. While Power Block is active, all damage he takes from the front is reduced by 90% and charges his gauntlet, allowing him to punch further, faster, and stronger. Overall, I think Doomfist should have always been a tank, but he could use some additional buffs to his kit. I just think it's a great start. Let's be honest, nobody liked getting one-shot punched by Doomfist in Overwatch 1. The last hero on this list is Sombra. Because Overwatch 2 removed all CC CC from most heroes, it only made sense to rework her as well. She can now hack while invisible on a shorter cooldown, but the hack only lasts for 1 second and boosts her damage against that target by 50%. Her ultimate EMP no longer removes shields, but deals 40% of every affected target's HP. Time will tell if Sombra's rework is broken or not, since she doesn't exactly fit in the current meta. I'm actually excited to hear which heroes you guys are looking most forward to playing in Overwatch 2, since many of them got so many changes between betas. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for. My thoughts on Overwatch 1 versus Overwatch 2. Casting aside any nostalgia, I think that Overwatch 2 is a much more balanced game. Tanks were overly oppressive in Overwatch 1, usually deciding the game before the match even started. There's a reason all the longest lasting metas were decided by the tanks that were being played. Think of Double Shield, if you will. How I see it, 5v5 is fundamentally more enjoyable to play for every single role, and tanks were definitely not left behind. Right now, I personally prefer the user interface in Overwatch 1. That could just be because I'm so used to it, but Overwatch 2 pretty much tries to reinvent the wheel, and it doesn't exactly click just yet. One especially great change that they made is adding more natural coverage in every single map. While there is one less tank on the field, it was necessary to add more to the environment so players could have positional advantage. As a content creator, I'm extremely hopeful for Overwatch 2 going free to play, meaning we'll have more consistent content on a more consistent basis with roadmaps to prove it. It's not exactly a surprise by now that I've been invited to a few content creator exclusive meetings, and I find that with the developer team expanding, they're able to freely communicate with us and make promises that can actually be kept. The bad news is I don't think Overwatch 2 will have a launch nearly as successful as its predecessor. The game already has a bad reputation for the countless delays, lack of communication, and lackluster announcements. Many people are calling it an update, and I can't really blame them. Some important changes could have easily been implemented in Overwatch 1, but never really were. This includes the new ping system, or even an anti-cheat we've all been begging for. Even removing CC from Overwatch 2 is a suggestion the majority of the player base has had forever. Rigetta single-handedly made a huge percentage of the community quit because her shield bash countered so many fun heroes. However, with all that being said, my hot take is I actually don't really mind Overwatch 2 feeling like an update. It would have probably made me more upset if it felt like an entirely different game. In my opinion, the saving grace for Overwatch 2 will truly be the PvE they plan on releasing into 2023. Will it feel like any other event? If it's another Uprising or Retribution, we'll probably just fall into the same hole we can't climb out of. If it follows similar storytelling and world building as Destiny, we might actually see an entirely new wave of players looking to try something refreshing. I really recommend checking out my buddy Nathan's new video, Overwatch 2 Will Fail Without This, for more insight on PvE and where they should take it. Well, that's just about everything you need to know before the launch of Overwatch 2, and I really hope this helped you catch up whether you're a new or returning player. I'm considering making a new settings guide that'll cover the best sensitivities and crosshairs for a much faster Overwatch 2, so let me know if that's something you'd be interested in watching. This took a lot of time and research to make, so if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe and leave a like for more.